Okay, there's enough of you now, I think. Not that I would say no to more viewers, but let's start talking about this balance update, okay? Yeah, here it is. Let me. Am I gonna block anything? No, it seems it's fine to leave all the UI on. Okay, let's just zoom in a bit like this. Yeah. Okay, let me start by saying this is not a final list. It is a work in progress and is very subject to change. Uh, we want to be as transparent as possible in regards to what our team's proposed changes are going to be. Below are all items we are currently working on or have implemented so far. Some have numbers attached, while others don't at this time, and that's because we are working towards finding what a good change should be. Now, we know there are about a million things everyone will want to see added to this list, and I know you will post them in the comments, but this is a large list so far of things we can tackle right now. We are working quickly to get these into your hands. Take a look, uh, give feedback, be civil. Oh my god, it's like, okay, guys, don't suggest anything new. Basically, that's what he's saying because these are the things we're doing or whatever. I hope they are going to be flexible in terms of swapping out things and like, okay, I'd like them to keep their scope, okay? So do as many changes as you have time for initially, but be flexible in terms of what the changes are. Like, if one of your changes is bullshit, then don't do it. Then swap it out for something that many people actually would approve of. Let's get into the list though. They're doing a hero pass, so they're gonna make it so that XP gain is normalized, which means that they'll all level up at the same rate. In theory, at least. In practice, we'll see how that applies. Vet bonus is normalized, so all the veterancy would be equal across the board for all of the heroes. So if you level up your Cutter Jerome, it would get X% bonus health and damage and whatever. And that set of percentages would be true for all the other heroes. So they would be equal percentage based buff. Cost normalization, whatever that means. I guess some heroes cost a different amount than others, and that's because some heroes are better. DPS, I commented on this actually below. I believe that level 2 and 3 heroes are just way too fucking good. No bounded siphon for Warlord. Yes, Yoda. Um, so yeah, at level 2 and 3, I think heroes are just way too tanky, way too strong. You can't kill a fucking Spartan at tier 2 um, with anything tier 1. So if they get to that fast tier 2 with a Spartan that's level 2, it's like, woo! How are you gonna kill that? Especially if it's Douglas, which is luckily getting adjusted for AoE. I hope that means that they're gonna add these percentage drop-offs to the AoE ranges of Douglas. I think that's what it means. Hey, Steph, no worries. Keep it up, man. Just upgrade your generators, whatever. I'll talk to you about it after. Um, so yeah, they want to nerf the Douglas Rocket AoE. I really hope that they're gonna nerf the damage that it does to the outer areas, so that the single target damage would remain the same. But something they absolutely have to do is to make it so that you can't micro twitch that guy. It's ridiculous. Buffs to Jerome. I think that's the cutter Jerome. Not sure if it's super necessary. He's a good hero. He's just worse than Douglas. That's his only problem. What would be good is if the Jerome got buffed. With his Mantis, it currently slows down in Marines even. So it would be nice if it didn't do that because Time for Heroes is kind of weird like that. You have that hero in your army and it just slows you down. Then they're doing some tier 2 vehicle adjustments. Now, I honestly think that the tier 2 vehicles are roughly fine. I don't think that uh, I don't think that most have a problem, but for Mantis, the shields are a bit too weak for that upgrade cost, and it really slows you down. Mantis are just not a good unit, man. They die in every matchup, and only time they work is when the other player doesn't expect it and doesn't prepare properly. But if you've got hunters, if you've got even combat tech marines with some hornets and gales, you're gonna wreck the shit out of that. Warthog buffs unnecessary. They're good units. It's just they struggle with combat tech marines, and they're still not on this freaking list. We were whining about combat tech marines being too good for months, half a year plus, and they're still not touched. Just freaking nerf that rocket, make it the same as the basic units weapons, the assault rifle weapons. Like seriously, tier 2 vehicles aren't a problem. Those fucking marines tear them a new one. That's the problem. It's completely the wrong way around. Kodiak build time adjustments, that's great. Jackrabbit tuning versus other scouts. Why? Why other scouts? The problem is that they get shreked by mines, so that mine grunts plus rush units are just not counterable with jackrabbits. They do a bit better against UNSC. I think they're largely okay. They could use a little bit of a buff. Scouts as a whole, I think, are a bit too pricey with their upgrades. Their upgrade is just crazy for the effectiveness of scouts. Ghosts need to beat jackrabbits because Shipmaster and Arbiter don't have grunt mines, so they don't have a direct counter. They have to go like grunt engineer, stall, and then go tier 2. I think that's not very nice. So scouts need the other two scouts need to do okay against jackrabbits. I would like jackrabbits to be a bit more even with choppers though. Condor affected by global upgrades. What the hell? Just buff the base Condor. It's terrible. Seriously, it's like got a very niche role where you can abuse it on cliffs, and that's it. It's just a siege unit from very far. You can't rush a Condor really. It's not gonna work most of the time. Whereas with a Scarab, you can. Affected by global upgrades is weird because everyone so far, I think a lot of people know that they are not affected by global upgrades. Now, changing that is going to give an advantage to the waypoint readers. It's just make it better. I think you should make it just better as a whole. Whereas the Scarab is fine, and the Scarab also has the same change here. On that topic, I think it's not a terrible idea to give them global upgrades, but the Scarab is too good for that, so you need to nerf it if you do this, and then you nerf the Scarab Rush, which is a potent, good, balanced, fair strategy right now. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just buff the Condor, leave the Scarab alone. That's the safest play. Maybe play around with it internally if you have a lot of time, but that's a waste of your time, man. Scarabs are good, Condors are not. Fix it. This is not the fix. This is making Scarabs better. Rangers. Reduce DPS of individual Ranger and add one more to the They're really good units. They're the core backbone unit of Banished. I don't understand why anyone would whine about Rangers. It's ridiculous. I've been playing purely Banished for 2 seasons because UNSC is just not as good, and I don't want to abuse Anders. Rangers are the key units that I make in tier 2, and they just win the mid game because they're that good. The only time they're not good is when combat tech marines get in the way. And the ranger number isn't sufficient and there's no engineers or whatever. Yeah, in that case, rangers could use a little bit of love, but that's a combat tech problem. Rangers are more than fine, especially in a big squad. In a big group. Don't do something ridiculous like a 30% buff. It's gonna be banish dominated. Blisterbacks should be buffed. Their range is just really bad. You need to be able to use them to siege bases. You currently just can't. Mech Blast buffs, okay, so I think it got nerfed a bit too hard, especially for cost and damage. I think the damage should be reverted for the most part. Go for an in-between point, I think. and just make it the same cost as before. Maybe add a bit of telegraphing to it so we can dodge it better. Canister shell DPS for Isabel specifically with the uh, with what's it called, with her special, the best offense thing. Yeah, that should be buffed, but canister and tanks as a whole, not all tanks, I mean, specifically scorpions, but the others too to an extent, except the Colossus and the Grizzly, are not that great. You don't really want to make these units, and I think that's the problem you should be fixing, on top of canister being bad. Just give me a reason to make a big Scorpion army, because right now it takes forever. Their upgrade is super expensive, and then when I have the army, it just loses to make scumps. What's the point? I will never make them. Solution for Retriever Sentinel being by shifting leader powers around. So shield must be picked later for Sentinel. That would mean that they would have to move what's it called? They'd have to move Sentinel Network down a tier. So that power needs to be nerfed if they do that. Besides that, it's okay. Also, what do you do about global upgrades and the Retriever if you already do it for the others? Like, the Retriever really falls off in the super late game when you have a big army that's highly upgraded. The big problem is the first two Retrievers. The first one more so than the others. Okay, Decimus, Boundless Siphon Banshee fix. They're going to create a new weapon type with specific leech on it for Banshees when you got Boundless Siphon active. Okay, so just do that for everyone, because currently Boundless Siphon causes a bug where they heal themselves outside of combat when they're not doing damage. It should only work when they do damage, and why only apply the fix to one unit? That's ridiculous. Warlord does not get tier 3 upgrade in Strongholds. Okay, that's Strongholds, we don't mind. Nerfs to displacement size. It better be big, because that power is ridiculous. Raid will be 2 points for Shipmaster. That's a good change. Give some build order diversity. Scatter bomb buffs for Forge. Sure, it should telegraph a bit less, maybe a bit more damage. I think it's roughly fine. Kinsano Flamehawk drop cooldown. Okay, why is this fucking drop so cheap? It's like taxing 10 supplies on top of the actual cost of the hogs, and then you get veterancy. Jesus, shut up. you get veterancy, and you get a fire pool, and you get a stun. What the hell? Why are Kinsano's drops so cheap? Well, not the flamer, but the flame hog and the ultimate drop are super fucking cheap. Can I disable these notifications right now? I don't think. Where do you even do that? I don't care right now. Anyways, yeah, Inferno and Napalm Missile should be a bit weaker against buildings. Maybe even last a longer time so you can out heal it a bit. Colony. Potential buffs to slow on attacks. I have no idea what the hell they're talking about. Yeah, whatever. I don't know. Is that for the hero? What the hell do you guys mean? Nerfs the early game. Yes, the hero in tier 1 is way too fucking good, and he keeps staying way too fucking good. Just nerf it. For damage or health or siphon, whatever. Just nerf it in some form. Dude, just go away. Potential buffs to slow on attacks, whatever that means. Teleport for colony. To swap for battle hardened or mines. Yes, swap for mines. Battle hardened is actually not so bad. Skitters do not get affected by stasis. Okay, not a big deal, but do it. In Blitz, we don't care. Reduce cost on bunkers for Johnson. Yes, and absolutely have to do the change for shields, I think, on the Mantis. I think it's super important. Yeah, this will help a bit with Johnson's early game. Commander Jerome, Jackrabbit's LOS was decreased with recon training. It's good. Uh, Enduring salvo buffs, yes. And as I mentioned before, this the make the speed of the Hero Mantis and the Marines equal. The Hero Mantis should not slow down those guys. Besides that, I think Jerome is fine. Serena. Oh yeah. That's actually very true, Space Mailman. Yes, the Jerome Mantis should target what you're telling it to. So when you're garrisoned, the Vissel just go wherever the fuck they want, right? And I think that would be a very good thing if it just did what you told it to. So it would not be a secondary weapon that automatically does its thing, but rather it would just go where you tell it to go. Okay, Serena buff Seismic Blast and Cryo Bomb. Okay, mostly for size, I think. Cooldown reductions. Anyone 12 o'clock of Serena, it's the worst 12 o'clock or tier 5 power in the game. Anything? And what about the cost of Frost Ravens? It's ridiculous. It's so overpriced. Just reduce it a little bit. uh, I made a very, very appropriate comment on this one. Voridus, Grenadier fixes, rebalance weapon DPS, give a correct weapon type for roll, and is likely a new weapon type. Yes, please make it a good unit. It's so sad. The Grenadier is only good because of its stupid exploits with the fully upgraded version and the Cataclysm combo, which I believe this is what it is. I hope you guys can fix it. It's really bad. It just blows up an entire army, and there's no counterplay besides invulnerability and teleport. And you have to time it perfectly because it's immediate. It's not cool. Engineers, cost reduction and decrease the viability cooldown. Okay, I could definitely see that working. I think it's a bit squishy because it doesn't have a shield. Uh, maybe buff that a bit. And hero buffs. Okay, yeah. Vordis' kit is actually pretty good. It's just these few special units cause a lot of problems. How the hell do you stop a Flamer Cheese with Vordis? It's like, how? Just how do you do it? He has no suicide runs. Choppers are slow to make, so it's really, really difficult. Okay, and finally, there's nothing for Yap Yap. That is just horrible. Here's my proposals for Yap Yap. Surprise Party is still a bit too good, just because it's like Lotus Mine doesn't make it fine. Honestly, this power is really good because it spawns 2 extra units on top of being a potent mine. It should be a little bit weaker than Lotus. Also, it's tier 1, so you can get it immediately. Definitely has a lot of edge on Lotus, and it should start a bit weaker. And Brute Rider HP should be reduced a little bit so that it's easier to counter that stupid Cannon Fodder and Brute Rider spam. It's such a potent rush, and with the mine and other supporting powers, it's just way too good, I think. Very, very difficult to stop with UNSC, and once combat tech is fixed, it's going to be nearly impossible. So reducing that HP will go a very long way with making sure that the early game units are actually working against this. Maybe you could nerf their RAM a bit. That would be interesting as well. And to compensate for all this, I think the Goblin should be a viable tier 1 unit. So if you reduce the power cost, if you give it a bit more HP, but weaken the second and third upgrades so that they're identical to their current strength at those levels, I think that could go a very long way for Goblin viability in the early game and seeing a more standard play from Yap rather than this stupid cheese every single game. That's it for balancing, guys. Any questions? Feel free to ask some quick questions now. I think a lot of this stuff just came completely out of nowhere. No one's talking about a lot of these things. And they're certainly not a problem in many cases. Whereas the key issues are being ignored. I think there's some developer politics in the way again. And honestly, fuck that shit. It's not what we need. Close air support. It's kind of okay right now. It's already been buffed, actually. Yeah, as in, I think someone is directing Postums and Frenzy again, telling them what to do with their life. So instead of listening to the community and the tournament results and whatever, uh, one of their bosses is telling them to balance based on the stats, and they have some stupid ideas of their own, and they can't say no because they'll get into trouble and whatever. I think that shit might be going on right now. Um, well, Ripping Hearts, there's not much you can do about the Watchtower exploit. Should it target turrets last? Is that what you're saying? Hunter's brand fix is not data. They need to fix so many bugs. There's so many bugs. Where's the black screen fix? Where is the AMD graphics card fix where you can't play for the first 10 seconds? Where is the PC alt tab fix where you have to spam click on your minimap before you can give any commands? Where is the right trigger fix? Where is the spectator mode sync up fix for PC and Xbox when you observe it both? All of these fixes are just a long way off. Where's the desync fixes? Where's the matchmaking fixes? Where's all that shit? This is just balancing. Let's talk about that now. Yes, Yoda? What did they say? No answer. Okay, guys, I think this is where we will cut off the highlight. Hello, YouTube. Leave your comments below.